Jake Paul has just beaten Mike Tyson in quite possibly the worst fight I've ever seen. It's definitely up there anyway. But I want to talk about some of the positives of the event first. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 2. Great fight, in my opinion. I enjoyed their rematch. Netflix, as a host, hosting the event, done a good job. I liked the way they laid it out. I like the stats that they would put up in between each round to show you how many jabs have landed, power punches, etc. Who had won each individual round in certain people's opinion. To be honest, I've stayed up for this fight. I'm so tired. I can't even remember. Do they do that for every other boxing event? Maybe I'm just, I don't know, giving Netflix too much of a compliment here. But let's talk about the fight. Yes, he beat Mike Tyson, but Jake Paul probably, not probably, is the biggest loser in all of this. Jake Paul did not look good in there whatsoever against Mike Tyson. The way that fight played out doesn't help the argument or the case that these fights aren't rigged. I've been a supporter, if you want to call it that, of this Jake Paul boxing experiment. You know, when he fought the likes of Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, Mike Perry. I was saying you have to remember this guy has only started his career, um, and he's fighting these big names in combat sports, and the guy's had next to no combat sport experience, but you can't defend that in there. Now, look, I'm glad it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I thought Jake Paul was going to KO Mike Tyson inside 3 rounds, but for Jake Paul, that was probably, outside of being knocked out by Mike Tyson, this was a very close second. You went 8 rounds with Mike Tyson, who after the second round was shot to pieces. In fact, he was shot to pieces coming in here, but his legs were gone after the second round. You'd maybe get one bob and weave out of him maybe every other round. The activity from Jake Paul was non-existent. His defense, I mean, to be honest, he looked better against Mike Perry. It looks like Jake Paul's actually regressing in terms of, he's not progressing and looking better in these fights, he's regressing. Like, I mean, not as if he's ever really looked amazing, but against, Anderson Silva, against Nate Diaz, against Tommy Fury, in those 3 fights, he looked way better in them than he done here against Mike Tyson. I thought after we seen what he done to Mike Perry, he brutalised him. Now, obviously, Mike Perry isn't a boxer and he is much smaller, but after seeing that, I thought, right, Mike Tyson's 58 years of age. Jake Paul's just put a really bad beating on someone who is really tough and durable, and Mike Perry, who's in his prime. I think Jake Paul is definitely going to flatline Mike Tyson. And in there, he went in there, really offered up. It just wasn't a good show. If you're Jake Paul, I think this fight, now he probably doesn't care because the guy's going to win on his professional record over Mike Tyson, which, say what you want, that's pretty nice to have. To say that you at 12 fights, I know you have to add on that Mike Tyson was 58, but when it's all said and done, to look at your boxing career and go, I've got a win over the legend that is Mike Tyson, that's going to be nice to have. And the fact that he made 40 million apparently from this fight, I don't think Jake Paul probably gives a shit, to be honest. And it's not as if he is boxing for the money, the guy doesn't need it. But I don't know where he goes next from here. I don't think many people are going to be interested in the boxing career of Jake Paul. I mean, I don't think many people were after we seen how shit the Mike Perry fight sold. Now, this fight did sell well, and as you could see in the stadium, it was packed. But that was predominantly to do with Mike Tyson. That's why people were there. They weren't there for Jake Paul. They were there to see Mike Tyson. And with that performance, I just don't know what he does next. I mean, in the build up to this, you heard him say he was going to call out Canelo and show Canelo he's the face of boxing. And when Ariel Helwani bought up Canelo Alvarez to Jake Paul, you could see that he didn't want it there. He made up some excuse saying, like, Canelo needs me, I don't need him, which just isn't true. But yeah, what's next for Jake Paul in this experiment? I don't know. Obviously, you've always got the KSI fight. That there is probably the biggest fight that can be made for him, in terms of generating hype. I was going to say that might be a step down in competition, but no disrespect to Mike Tyson. That wasn't Mike Tyson in there. That was a senior citizen. I mean, from what we've seen of the training footage from Mike Tyson with him bobbing and weaving on the pads, we seen none of that tonight. To be honest, I struggled to give Mike Tyson a round. I know Mike Tyson was given a round, and that in itself isn't a good look for Jake Paul. The fact that you're letting, and I know it's Mike Tyson, but he's 58 years of age. Like, let's talk about the ring walks for a second. I knew this was going to be a shit show when I seen Mike Tyson walk out and trip on his way out to the ring. I knew this was going to be an absolute disaster. We didn't see anything from the training footage we've seen of Mike Tyson whatsoever. There was a point where Jake Paul did have him hurt, and it wasn't even like a nice shot he landed. It was like three like slap hooks he landed on Mike Tyson in a row. Mike Tyson's feet just weren't quick enough to move back. It was sloppy from Jake Paul in there. Not that he's ever been technically brilliant, but like I said, it looks like he's regressing. He looked worse. This was a really shit performance from him. Now, in the post-fight press conference, he did say that he did, when asked why he didn't KO Mike Tyson, he said he didn't want to hurt someone who didn't need to be hurt. Which again just doesn't help the case that these fights aren't rigged or set up. I've never thought that about Jake Paul's fights. I've never watched them and thought, maybe outside of Ben Askren, but outside of that I've never watched them and thought these are set up, these are rigged, people are taking dives. I know a lot of people thought Tyron Woodley 2 was a dive. I just thought Jake Paul caught him with a good, well-timed right hand, and Jake Paul does carry power, but in there tonight, it was weird. Like, even Jake Paul's corner were telling him, like, step on the gas, like, get him out of there. And, you know, Jake Paul said he didn't want to hurt someone who didn't want to be hurt. Did he even try? You know, did he even try? It's not as if, okay, he didn't want to hurt Mike Tyson, he didn't want to knock him out, he wanted to just share the ring with Mike Tyson. It wasn't as if he was working his jab well or anything like that. He was shit in there. Genuinely, Jake Paul looked crap in there. And like I've said, not that I've ever watched the guy and thought he's technically brilliant, but like, this is maybe like his 5th year. He's got the best team money can buy, probably. You know, he's got the best guy doing his food, recovery, trainers. He's got all that system out in Puerto Rico. And it looks like he's getting worse. But again, like I said, the guy made 40 million. He's got a win over Mike Tyson. In terms of where he goes next, like I said, he's got that KSI fight. I think if you're Team Jake Paul, you probably go for that. I definitely wouldn't recommend him staying at the heavyweight division. It's definitely not for him. I think even cruiserweight, I think he's too small for there as well, to be honest. Not as if he's ever going to make a proper dent in the elite level of boxing. Certainly not after that performance. But if he wants to get the best out of himself, I feel like he maybe should move down from cruiserweight, maybe light heavy. What's next? Tommy Fury is there. It has to be either the KSI fight, which will be a big fight, because that audience has wanted that fight for years. Like, I remember when he fought Deji, I can't remember what age I'd have been there, to be honest, and from then everybody's wanted the KSI fight, and people still want the KSI fight, so it's still there. Outside of that, Tommy Fury rematch, I think if he wants to really prove that he is a boxer and he is improving and he wants to take this sport serious, he should rematch Tommy Fury. But the way he looked in there against Mike Tyson, I don't think he beats Tommy Fury. Based on that performance, I think he can beat Tommy Fury. His first fight with Tommy Fury was very close. He dropped Tommy Fury in there, but from that performance against Mike Tyson, I wouldn't be convinced he beats Tommy Fury. Not that Tommy Fury's great either, but I'd expect Tommy Fury to have a better showing in there against Mike Tyson than what Jake Paul did. Not that I really expected much from this fight, but very disappointed. I thought Jake Paul was going to go in there and knock him out, get a statement win, have everybody hate him, get a load of drama, and create a bit more buzz for himself, but he done the opposite there. Done the opposite with that performance. In terms of Mike Tyson, don't let this guy box again. I think he landed 18 punches over 8 rounds. Do you know what I mean? But again, he's 58 years of age. What do you expect? He did call out Logan Paul. Don't want to see it. And do you know what? Logan Paul actually said, "Oh, Mike, I'd fuck you up." Logan Paul is that shit I think Mike Tyson could possibly beat him because Logan Paul is that terrible. Like, Logan Paul is shit, so bad. I don't know if this was an off night for Jake Paul, or I don't know. I'd much rather see Mike just hang up the gloves, to be honest. Hopefully Netflix stay on boxing. I like what they've done there. Maybe is Jake Paul going to be the face of Netflix boxing? I don't know. But yeah, the only two options, in my opinion, that he has if he wants to generate hype and get a bit of hype on board is KSI or Tommy Fury. That those are the only two options I think really make sense for Jake Paul. He can't fight another old legend. Um, Carl Froch, people were talking about him. People were talking about Tony Bellew. Tony Bellew specifically smashes Jake Paul to pieces. I don't know what physical state Carl Froch is in. The guy's been retired for quite some time now. Um, but if you are Jake Paul, I wouldn't go for Carl Froch. He's not really over the hill. He can still box. He can still move. Like I said, the only two options: KSI, Tommy Fury. I'm rambling on here. Netflix done a good job with the show, but this main event was really dog shit. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again in the next one.